Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Today we gather to celebrate a great personality. Personality that was unique, special in every sense, of Captain Kanwar Harbhajan Singh Ji, also known as our dear Papaji. As a personality like his, words are difficult to find to be able to capture everything that he did for us individually and as a society. And we can consider Southern California as a location of his study because I only knew him in this context. So I'm going to speak about him from the context of someone who was living here in Southern California, knowing that his impact was far-reaching and he had done many other visionary projects in many other places. If I could talk to him, if he was sitting here in person today, and if I could talk to him as a researcher, I would ask him one question. I would say, what is it that you're trying to solve? What is it that you're trying to accomplish through camps, through your talks, through your passionate work to bring Sikhi into practice? What is it that you're trying to achieve? He's not here today in person with us, but knowing what he might have said because of my experience with him, maybe I can assume, maybe I can confidently say what I think he might have said. So this is my perspective based on my interactions with him. And I think one idea captures that. And that came from a sociologist, a psychologist named Vygotsky. And I'm paraphrasing him. He said, "Neither the hand nor the mind alone, left to itself, would amount to much." I understand this concept through the example of Papaji, that neither the hand nor the mind left to itself would amount to much. He was one such leader who helped connect the mind with action. My personal lens of Sikhi includes practice what we believe and believe what we practice. Where mind and action is aligned. So this was exemplified greatly by Papaji. As a young 16-year-old attending camps, I saw a leader in him who was gathering us there with one intention, according to my view, one intention only. And that was to help our scatteredness to synthesize ourselves. Know who you are and look at what you're doing. Be aware of who you are and what you're supposed to be and what you believe. Is it all aligned or is it all over the place? That our experience in living the Sikhi lifestyle can not only teach us about our beliefs, but create that personality in us, a character in us, where mind and action are in alignment. And this, I believe, was his mission. This, I believe, he noticed as a gap that had started to emerge in our community here, okay? My generation, fortunately for my generation, we became his subjects. If this was a great experiment he conducted, if this was a great study he was doing, we were the subject of his interest. Because I think he saw in us that our generation was at risk of having this great misalignment that would have long-term negative effects for our community as a whole. So for that reason, I think we became his target audience. And fortunately for us, it's had long-term positive effects. If you look at many of us, what we're doing now, what we're accomplishing, his ideas still live through us. Look at our children, how they look. I believe if he hadn't brought what he brought to us, things might have looked very different. And I'm saying that with a lot of confidence. I believe he was sensing that gap widening between what we believed. You know, you go to the Gurdwara, you matha take, you eat langar, you celebrate Gurpurab, you say hello to your friends, and then you come home. But our lifestyles were not quite matching what we were doing. It was a ritualistic lifestyle, and I think that's what he was noticing as well. As a child, I didn't have the intellectual vocabulary to describe what his intentions were for us, but I knew that what he did for our community and me personally as an individual was very important. Actually, it was transformational. He unified us with lots of first ever New Year's program, first ever Darbari Khalsa held on December 25th, and it's been coming for last 30 some years, just like that. I haven't missed any except for the times when I was out of country. He was the first one to initiate unifying the gurdwaras, local gurdwaras in Southern California, where he got the 5 Ragi Jathas to do Kirtan together, and it's still happening. So many of those things that he installed, and he was the first to innovate, those ideas are still happening. And they have been transformational for each one of us, and as collectively as our community. It's shaped our community. We don't have to think about what we're gonna do on December 25th anymore for last 30 years. I know I'm gonna put on my suit and I'm gonna practice Shabad and I'm going to Darbari Khalsa along with my children, along with our families, and we know we're gonna see people that we love and care for there that we haven't seen the entire year. So what he has left us with is nothing less than amazing. I learned the beauty of Sikhi and love for our gurus from my parents, but Papaji played an important role. If my parents had set that foundation for me, I think he added another layer of bricks and he added more cement. So cementing our beliefs, transforming them into practice even further. Very authentically, that transformation happened. It wasn't a lot of do's and don'ts. We were not looking at a book full of rules and regulations. It was a very organic process. It was done through examples of others, through Sakhis, through living the lifestyle, okay? I learned how fortunate I should consider myself to be a Sikh. He instilled that pride in all of us. He told us so many Sakhis in a way that nobody had ever told us Sakhis before, that style, that tone, the wording. He infused the sense of pride that we should have in our heritage, because what we have is like nothing else. Truly, it's unparalleled. When he spoke, the words were informal, simple, and relatable. Any kid from 4-year-old to 20-year-old would get something out of it. Yet the effect, despite the informality, despite the simplicity of the words used, the effect was impactful, the effect was extraordinary, and I come back to the word transformational. The effect was transformational. His tone was assertive, direct, pointed, straightforward, yet full of love for the well-being for all of us. And you could see it, you could sense it, you knew it, because he wasn't fake. His mind, he spoke his mind. And he spoke his mind backed by actions. We could see that. So therefore, even in a child's mind, even if I couldn't describe at that time what his intentions were or what his purpose was, I knew he was credible, I knew he was trustworthy, and I knew he was someone with a mission and purpose, which was so clear. And I listened to his words with all seriousness. As an educator, I understand now intellectually the framework. Maybe I can frame what he was doing based on what I know now. I understand that he was an activist. That was his activism, what he was doing with us. He was an advocate for us. He was creative. And through the creative innovations, he motivated individuals and he motivated our community here. And I know he did that in lots of other places. He didn't just feed us facts and figures. You know, we didn't just memorize the dates of when our gurus sahibs were born or when certain battles were fought. It wasn't about dates. It wasn't about just information. He developed, I believe, our psyche, our character, and he developed dimensions of that character. There were intellectual dimensions, moral dimensions, spiritual dimensions, finally leading to our own conscious. So in a way, he aligned us. He synthesized our character that was getting scattered everywhere, where we were confused, trying to find our identity in a way. And I think he guided us to where this is who you are. And I find that probably the most memorable and the most amazing and wonderful thing about my experience with him. A true leader, he was. He helped us dive into our own abilities, which is not everybody can do that. It was a learning experience. And it was the kind of learning experience that leads one, at least it led me, to my own reflections on Sikhi. Those reflections led me to a place where I could conceptualize it, where finally that conceptualization takes me to actions even now. I know that I am grounded in a certain place because of that. And I know what is happening in the world where this is where I need to act. This is the battle I don't have to fight. So I think it developed a framework for me in terms of how to think about things, how to align my own beliefs with my actions. It's the same principle. I think through the whole, if I think about my experience with him, I keep coming back to that idea of how he aligned my character. It was truly a life-shaping experience, and he was a life-shaping leader. As our last conversation, before saying goodbye to him in a phone call, Darbare Khalsa was coming up, and he called me and he was asking me about how long my group needs for Kirtan. And I was pushing a grocery cart around in a grocery store, and I was talking to him like this while picking veggies, and very informal conversation. And after our conversation, before he said goodbye, his last sentence in that conversation with me was, he said, now, I've done what I needed to do. Now you have to carry on the work. And I believe he meant that all of us have to carry on the work. So it was, so he's left that one sentence in my head forever. And it was a very, I value that. I think now it's our responsibility to carry on that legacy, his work, and making sure that we don't become misaligned, scattered characters again. And we need to always identify if that's happening any place. We need to identify that, and we need to go after that like he did. Now it's our turn to carry on his work, and I certainly will, and I think we all will. Thank you for the opportunity for me to share what my thoughts are about Papaji, who words fall short to describe what he did for us as individuals and for our community here and as well as worldwide. Thank you. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.